This is The Sports Life.
Setting a couple of screens of the Boilermakers into Travion. He'll catch and shoot. He made it! He made it! He made it!
Shot.
4 seconds on the clock. Michigan State racing to the other end. 3 seconds. Here's a shot at the buzzer. No good! No good! Purdue wins! Purdue wins!
What a win for the Boilers!
Iowa with a long three, and he buried it. Big Ten Tournament Championship comes to Champaign.
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Scheller. A couple of fun moments from 2021. Rob Blackman with the big Purdue win, and Brian Barnhart gets a call, a championship for the Fighting Illini in the Big Ten Tournament. And as for today's show, Dalton and I are going to take a little different trip down memory lane. On the show will be Ted Mandell, who 20 years ago put out a book called Heartstoppers and Hail Marys. Today, we will revisit some of the great moments in college football. Well, as we count down to the beginning of this year's Big Ten football season, we have been saluting highlights from previous years. In Dalton, today we worked our way to 2021.
That's right, and let's start off with a flurry. You just heard from Brian Barnhart because Illinois had a great moment in basketball at the beginning of this show. Well, how about on the gridiron, where they knocked off a top-ranked Penn State team? It took 9 overtimes to find a winner. This is shortly after the rules changed for overtimes, and it became just 2-point conversions at a certain point. Finally, Illinois in 9 overtimes would survive Penn State 20-18, and here's what the final sounded like.
In motion, Navarro. Fake. Peters rolls to the end zone. It is caught. It is caught. Yes! And it's good. Yes! And the Illini have won. They have upset number 7 Penn State. They caught it in the end zone. 2 points. The Illini are running all over the field, trying to find other people to hug. And on the replay, I want to see in the back of the end zone who it was.
That's Casey Washington.
Casey Washington.
The game is over.
Casey Washington with a catch. The Illini have upset Penn State 20-18. Can you believe it?
Well, what I can't believe is the game ended tied at 10-10. They played 4 hours and 10 minutes. Most overtimes in a Division I FBS game, longest game in the history of the Big Ten in that terms. And 4 hours and 10 minutes later, Dalton, the final score is 20-18. It's not like 60-something to 50.
I love that so much. But that wasn't the only exciting thing in Big Ten football, because in 2021, we had a battle of unbeatens for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. It was Michigan State and Michigan colliding, both undefeated on the season, and Michigan State would come from behind, trailing 30-14, thanks to Kenneth Walker's 5-touchdown performance against the Wolverines. Here's what the 5th one sounded like in the interception to seal it, as the Spartans would take home Paul Bunyan.
Peyton Thorne's in the pistol with Kenneth Walker behind him. Handoff to Kenneth Walker. Blows through the Wolverines. On his feet at the 10. He's into the end zone. Touchdown MSU. Do you believe it? Kenneth Walker III with a 23-yard touchdown run. That's his 5th TD of the ball game. First down, Michigan. 1:09 to play. They have no timeouts. Spartans 37, Michigan 33. McNamara throws it right sideline. It is
picked. It's picked.
And it's
That's
picked.
the ball game, baby.
The Spartans have picked it off.
Is that
Charles Brantley with the interception.
And no doubt that was it. And Michigan State would win that game. Of course, George Blaha, the legendary voice of MSU football. And the thing that was interesting, when Walker got the 5 touchdowns against Michigan, that was a big deal, right? And I really thought the season he was having, and he was doing it, and I don't want to say that the MSU offensive line wasn't great, but average would be about as far as I could go.
Right.
And so for him to be posting world-class numbers and scoring all these touchdowns, I was convinced after that performance he clearly would find his way to New York as one of the finalists for the Heisman. And to this day, I'm still not sure what happened.
Even in that 5th touchdown on TV, Gus Johnson had said, "Hello, New York City, I'll see you there." Because it felt like it was a shoe-in deal that he was going to be a Heisman finalist. And I'm not sure. Somebody really messed up some votes if you didn't put him there.
Yeah, and he did win the Doak Walker Award as the best running back in college football. That one I agree with.
Yeah, there we go. Well, let's get to our last moment, and this actually is a positive one for the Wolverines. Michigan, taking on Ohio State, would knock off the Buckeyes. Now, remember the context here, folks. This win in 2021 is the first Michigan win over Ohio State in a decade. The first one since 2011. Hassan Haskins would have 5 touchdowns against Ohio State in this win for the Wolverines. Here's the 5th touchdown, and you'll also get to hear from head coach Jim Harbaugh afterwards as well.
Gives it to Haskins. Haskins scores untouched from the 4-yard line. His 5th of the day, and the Wolverines extend their lead. Back to throw. Ojabo gets back there, forced Stroud out. Throw the ball down. That's caught, but it's short of the first down. That's it. It's caught by Olave, but it's 5 yards short of the first down. That'll do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the long drought is over. Ohio State is vanquished. 42-27 is the score, and the Wolverines are going to go to Indianapolis.
What did? I mean, I know that probably things you're thinking of are the same as I'm thinking of, but, I mean, let's move on with humble hearts, take the high road, but there's definitely stuff that people said that spurred us on even more. Sure. Sometimes people that are standing on third base think they hit a triple, but they didn't.
If you're on third base, how'd you get there? I've always wondered about that. But Jim Harbaugh makes some humbling comments after the game. Of course, Jim Brandstetter on the call. And when we come back, well, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. It's all coming up in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am.
Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, 20 years ago, Ted Mandell wrote a book called Heartstoppers and Hail Marys, the greatest college football finishes since 1970. So that was in 2006. It's now 2026. And we've asked Ted to join us to talk about his book. So, Ted, welcome in. And I should also mention that you're on the Notre Dame staff and you're part of the film department in television and theater in that group with the Irish. So, answer me this. What led you to write a book like this?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Well, I really appreciate being on the show. Well, if you go back to the early to mid 1990s when something called the World Wide Web first came out, I was working here at Notre Dame, and I started a website. It was one of the earlier websites. It was called Greatest College Football Finishes. And at the time, I had just gotten on a couple of message boards of college football fans, and I was always one of those kids who, I love watching the ends of games, and the games that you remember when you're growing up are those games that ended, in the last second plays. So I just kind of put a question out there, and I started compiling these games kind of as a hobby or, just to kind of create a new website back in the day. It caught fire a little bit. There was a magazine called Sport Magazine, which I don't know if it's still out there anymore, that wrote an article about it, and that kind of motivated me to write the book. And actually, the original version of the book came out in 2000, and then in 2006, which you mentioned, is when the second version, the updated version, came out. And yeah, it's been 20 years. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years since the book came out, and lots of things have changed from technology of how you listen to audio clips. Well, the book originally came out with CDs. It's associated. To the technology that's used on television and in football stadiums, which has really, in many ways, changed the way that the endings of games play out in the last 20 years, as opposed to prior to that.
Well, Ted, let me ask you here, too, because you mentioned that you were inspired as you take on some of the moments and process them, experience them throughout time. Can you, since you're good with words, you wrote a book, Ted, can you explain what the sentimental and emotional attachment to these moments are and what it creates for spectators?
I think as a college football fan, I grew up a college football fan. I grew up in Northern Kentucky and was attached to Notre Dame as a fan in the early 70s with Ara Parseghian. What kind of sticks in my memory are the audio calls of listening on a radio, hearing the home team announcer and the energy and the exuberance and sometimes the despair in games. And there's a beauty of experiencing a football game when you're actually not seeing it, but you're only hearing it, that makes it kind of magical and almost mythical in many ways. And the book, when I came out, the catch with the book is that you could listen to the audio from the networks of each university, and you get this kind of homer call. We call it a homer call now, but there's nothing that kind of gives you goosebumps more than listening to an announcer, not actually seeing it, but only hearing it and trying to place yourself in that space and back in time. And I think, I teach film and television here at Notre Dame, and I think film, we go to movies kind of for that same feeling. There's a feeling that you want to get, and that's what you get in a college football last second play, or even like as the time is winding down, there's, an immense amount of energy, nervousness, and, relief many times at the ends of these games. That kind of caught my ear and my eye, and that's kind of what motivated me to write the book. Because I think we all experience that in our favorite teams.
Well, Ted, as a Midwest guy, as you review in your mind some of these big plays, has there been a photo finish in the Big Ten that you like the best?
Oh, well, it's crazy. This book started in 1968 with the Harvard-Yale game, is in the intro, but there's been so many games. And obviously, recency bias is something, when we think about our memory, we think about pretty much the game that was the closest in our memory, but there's been so many. As I was kind of, preparing for the interview, I went back and looked at the book and some of the games. But I mean, for instance, if you look at the 1974 Ohio State-Michigan State game, which ended with Ohio State trying to score a touchdown as time was running out. They thought they snapped the ball. There was no instant replay. There was 45 minutes in the stadium where no one knew who actually won the game until Wayne Duke declared Michigan State the winner. I mean, you could look at that game for somebody of my generation, but I mean, you could look at the Penn State Indiana game from last year when Fernando Mendoza, hits Amari Cooper with like 36 seconds to go in the game, and just incredible catch. And, in the state of Indiana, that's probably seen as one of the greatest finishes, certainly in Indiana history. But I think it's to individuals. I mean, everybody's got their favorite 5 or 6 plays that they can remember. They know exactly where they were. They could tell you what seat they were sitting in, or what television they were watching, or even what they had for lunch that day. When Cordell Stewart hit Michael Westbrook in 1994, that's another great Big Ten finish. But Michigan State's had quite a few of those as well. If you look at Jeff Smoker, right, in 2021. I'm sorry, 2001, not 2021, but 2001, right? Jeff Smoker to T.J. Duckett. I bet you they don't forget that one in East Lansing.
I don't think they do, and they also don't forget Levi Jackson's run, as you talked about from that 74 game.
And I bet they don't forget the Duckett catch in Ann Arbor either,
yeah,
Ted.
That's right. Well, I think if I was a Michigan State fan, if there was one play, if I was 7 years old right now, or 8 years old right now, if there was one play that I would ever remember, it would be that punt, the punt drop where Michigan State picked it up and beat Michigan in 2015. I mean, that to me is like one of the greatest finishes of all time.
Trouble with the snap.
How crazy it was. But the great thing is, like, listening to the audio call. I mean, Sean McDonough lost his voice. And he turned into like a little girl, when that touchdown scored. It was crazy.
Well, one time Dalton pulled out the Michigan State call.
Bad snap. Bobble. Scooped up. Here come the Spartans. Down the sideline. Racing into the end zone.
Are you kidding me?
Into the end zone is Jalen. Watts. Jackson. Touchdown, MSU.
Touchdown. George, what a call. My God. How did that happen?
The Michigan call.
There's nobody back there to field the ball. Oh, he fumbled the ball. Now he fumbled it in the air, and it's picked up by Michigan State at the 20, the 15, the 10, and he's going to score. No time left. You've got to be kidding me. That you could not write. I don't know what to say.
And the call of the Michigan student radio broadcast.
O'Neal muffed the football, and he can't get away with it. And Michigan State running down the left sideline. Needing a block, and the Spartans are going to win the football. No! Touchdown, Michigan State. Are you kidding me?
It's obviously the TV call with Sean McDonough.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game. Unbelievable.
But it was interesting. All the calls were fabulous. But back to your point, Ted, the agony of the home announcer when they lose and the ecstasy when you win and the emotion of all three of those radio broadcasts were spectacular. There was the great jubilation. And if people didn't think the Michigan State-Michigan game was a big deal to the Michigan people, you could hear the heartbreak of Brandstetter and the college kids. And it's a big deal, but there's a magic about radio, I think, Ted, that you don't always capture on TV because it's such an intimate thing.
Well, absolutely. And, the radio announcer's job is to paint the picture, where on television, the picture's already painted for you. So it's, many people watch games on television without the sound at all, whether in a sports bar or in a loud environment. But it is very intimate. It's one-on-one, and you're kind of in that room with the announcer. I mean, I always find myself, if I'm driving on a weekend, let's say, and I'm trying to pick up a college football game. First of all, if Notre Dame's playing, I'm going to listen to the Notre Dame network for sure. If there's a team that I don't want to win, I'll listen to, and they're losing, I will listen to their network. So, if I'm rooting against somebody and they're losing, I'll listen to their network. So I'm always like, I'll pick the network of the team that I want to actually win. And especially like and sometimes if Notre Dame is losing, there's some kind of, you feel like you have a friend there when you're listening to the announcer. I'd rather listen to the home radio call from Notre Dame if they're losing than I would like the national network or clearly the other team's network. I don't want to listen to somebody celebrate in my despair, right?
It just goes to show the conduit and the connection that radio has with its fan base, which is so special. And Ted, as we're going to talk about all the different moments from your book, and you talked about trouble with the snap in 2015. Of course, this book came out in 2006. We'll get to some of the moments that if you had to do it 20 years later, that since the 20 years, what some of those big moments that transpired have been. We got a lot we'll get to, but I want to ask you this before we close out the first segment. College football, all of the moments you're writing in this book are about college football. I think college basketball also supplies some great buzzer beaters and great moments, some different things. All sports have certain moments. But what is unique to college football in a game winner and in these type of moments that you wrote about that lend itself only to the gridiron versus the other sports?
Well, first of all, you're dealing with 18 to 22. Well, I guess now you're dealing with 18 to 25-year-old players, but back in the day, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old college players, and there's a lot of unpredictability that can happen and emotion that's involved as opposed to, say, a professional game. But college football is so unique in that you would be surprised at how many ways there are to win a game and how many ways there are to lose a game in the last seconds that I actually never really thought about until I started researching some of these plays. And by the way, the book is not just Division I. It goes from Division I all the way down to Division III. So what's interesting is when you uncover another way to lose a game or another way to win a game, I can't believe that just happened. And I think college football is the perfect sport where there's a myriad of ways in which, whether it's human error, whether it's strategy, whether it's just an amazing play, that scintillating finish plays itself out. It's so unpredictable. Again, it's like watching the end of a movie that the ending catches you by surprise and you just say, wow, especially if you are, rooting for one side or the other.
We're visiting with Ted Mandell, who was the author of a book, Heartstoppers and Hail Marys, great finishes in the sport of college football. We're celebrating the 20th anniversary of his second printing of this book. And Ted, can you hang around? We talk a little bit more about how you constructed the book and, again, some of your favorite finishes.
Absolutely.
Back with more in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender.
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team in here along with Dalton Shetler. And our conversation with Ted Mandell, who penned this really fun book, Heartstoppers and Hail Marys, Great Finishes in the Wide World of College Football. He's joining us, and we're kind of celebrating the 20 years ago, the last printing in 2006, reviewing it. And Ted, for those who are just joining us, we revisited this book with you because Dalton and I were just reminiscing about things as you get ready for the new season. And as you put this book together, what led you to say, okay, I want this play or I want that play? I mean, you can't hear all these things, right?
That's right. Well, I think, there's some standards when it comes to great plays in college football from, the previous, say, 3 or 4 decades when I put the book together. So, for instance, the Stanford band play, the famous plays like that, the Colorado Hail Mary play against Michigan, those were very famous Hail Marys, so those were easy ones. I think there's a couple things I wanted to do. I wanted to be representative of the national scope of college football because I think everybody has their 1 or 2 favorite plays from their colleges. So I wanted to do that. And I also thought that I thought that some of the greatest finishes actually occurred in smaller schools or in Division II and Division III. So I wanted to kind of uncover those gems as well. So that was kind of my idea. I didn't want to get into a ranking of like this one's better than that one because I think it's so subjective that each one of them has their own magic associated with them.
Well, Ted, you've mentioned this a couple of times that everybody maybe has 1 or 2 of these from their own school, and you said everybody's list of a top 5 or a top 6 would be different. You didn't want to rank because it is so subjective. But if we check out the Mandell list, and of course we know there's going to be some Notre Dame bias to this. You work there, you grew up as a fan there. What are your favorite moments as you look back at everything you've compiled here over the years?
Well, if I was just going to take the book itself, there's a game in the book from 1985. It's a Division III game between Principia and Illinois College, which is these 2 small schools in Illinois. Principia only had 39 roster players, I think, at the time. That there were 3 touchdowns in the final 28 seconds of the game and 2 Hail Marys in the last 2 seconds of the game. And that game in itself, there's no audio call from it, but there was a Super 8 film that I watched of it. And that was the most remarkable ending. I mean, some games you have one Hail Mary play, but when you have two Hail Mary passes in the last 2 seconds, that is pretty remarkable. So that's one that I always kind of pick out. There are other ones that I just love for the audio call. Like there was a 1979 game, Michigan and Indiana, where John Wangler hit Anthony Carter, and Bob Ufer, the great Michigan announcer for many, many years, completely lost his mind. I mean, completely lost his mind for like 5 minutes on the radio. And so just listening to the call itself was worth it for me. As a Notre Dame fan, I think you can't leave out the 1980 Notre Dame-Michigan game when Harry Oliver hit a 51-yard field goal as time expired, and listening to Tony Roberts on Westwood One call that field goal. I think that's in the archive of every Notre Dame fan, as well as the 1988 31-30 victory over Miami, where Pat Terrell knocked down Steve Walsh's two-point conversion attempt at the end of the game, the very famous Catholics versus Convicts game. So those two would probably stand out. I mean, but then there's some games that I would rather forget but can never get out of my memory, like the 1993 Boston College Notre Dame game, where Boston College kicked a field goal at the end. David Gordon kicked a field goal to beat Notre Dame when Notre Dame was on a path to win the national championship after beating Florida State. And one that really sticks into my crawl, this would be the Orange Bowl of 1991. This Notre Dame played Colorado. I don't know if you remember this, but Colorado was undefeated at the time. If they beat Notre Dame, they win the national championship. And there was a punt by Colorado with about 20 to 30. I thought it was about 30 seconds to go in the game. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was to Rocket Ismail. And he returned it like 91 yards for an apparent touchdown that would have won the game for Notre Dame, but it was called back by a phantom clip. We'll call it a phantom clip. But obviously in Colorado they don't call it a phantom clip. But basically it was the penalty that gave Colorado the national championship. And I was actually in the stadium at the time, and I was just kind of like, I can't believe that just happened. So that's an odd kind of ending to think about, a penalty, but it's another way of going from complete elation to utter despair in like 2 seconds. I mean, you see it in sports all the time. I mean, we saw it in the World Cup. You know, a goal goes in, you think you've won, and then it's called back. And now what's really interesting is that technology has changed so much that when you used to celebrate the big win, now everybody's holds their breath for 10 seconds. You know, the play's under review, the play's under review, the play's under review. So you don't have to like celebrate twice in many ways. It kind of takes away a little bit of that that emotion, and it certainly takes away a lot of the human error, which actually is a big part of many great finishes over history. There's human error. It might be the clock keeper, like for instance, both in the 74 Michigan State game against Ohio State and the 2001 game against Penn State. The clock keeper, I'm sorry, against Michigan, the clock keeper there was one of the elements of who wins or who loses. So human error is a beautiful thing when it runs in your favor, but not when it doesn't.
So let me ask you, both you and Dalton, this one. Is one of the keys for a great photo finish, so to speak, what makes a great maybe isn't just the play, but what the play meant, whether it was a championship or a major upset. We've talked about a couple, Michigan State things. They were memorable because the game was meaningful. Is that also one of the keys of this whole thing? If the game isn't a big deal, a photo finish maybe not as big a deal.
Yeah, I think the stakes have a lot to do with it. Absolutely. I mean, Auburn's kick 6 against Alabama, right? Alabama's Tua's pass to Devontae Smith in 2018 to win the national championship, that 41-yard pass in overtime. Yeah, the stakes have a lot to do with it. So if the stakes are lower, but I mean, I think in college football, stakes could mean everything from winning a rivalry to winning a national championship. Because, I mean, everybody bleeds the color of their alma mater, right? So it may not be a big thing to an Illinois fan to beat Penn State in 9 overtimes. I mean, to somebody who's not an Illinois fan, but to Illinois fans, that's a game that they'll never forget. So I think stakes have a lot to do with it, and obviously, what if it's an undefeated team or a national championship game or a playoff game, that just magnifies it. You know, I will say one other thing about that is that many of these finishes were upsets of teams where the week before the team that ended up losing the great finish, the week before they won a big game. So it's a letdown game or a homecoming game. So it's a lot of times when the favored team is caught unsuspecting and not playing their game, that's when a great finish actually happens.
Well, when we come back with more of our chat with Ted Mandell, we're going to talk about why, and Dalton hit on this, why these photo finishes, these Hail Mary type plays seem to mean more to all of us collegiately than they might in the NFL or some other sport. Back with more in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Visiting with Ted Mandell. Wrote this fabulous book 20 years ago, Heartstoppers and Hail Marys, about some of the great finishes in the sport of college football. So, Ted, appreciate you hanging with us here. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about a little bit about the book. Can you talk about how you laid it out so people had an understanding of what it meant, why it meant what it did, and how it affected things?
Yeah, there's 116 finishes in the book, and each chapter is essentially about a 3-page chapter, and it breaks it down to the background. So I kind of talk about the lead up to the game itself and what was at stake for both teams, and how the game played itself out leading up to this great finish. And then the next section is the actual play, where I will break down specifically what happened in the play. And 75 of these plays are associated with an audio call. So as you're reading it, you can listen to the actual announcer call the play. And then there's a section called the aftermath. What happened after the game, either for the season for the team or the next week. And I think what's really interesting is a lot of these games perhaps propelled a team onto a national championship. It maybe preserved their undefeated season. But in many cases, a game that ends in a great finish, it's so emotionally draining. The following week or the following weeks tend to go downhill for some of these teams that won the game. And so the game itself becomes kind of like the one shining light that people remember. It's interesting how the emotion of college football, the ebb and flow from week to week, plays itself out. And a big win can sometimes be followed by a unbelievable loss.
That is fascinating. Ted, I want to ask here, too, because, look, we've talked about a couple of all-time moments that have happened in the last couple of decades since this was released, your book. We talked about trouble with the snap in 2015. We talked about the kick six, Auburn, Alabama. Other moments that Will and I were spitballing about before we started recording this show, we talked about Appalachian State and Michigan at the Big House, 2007, which, matter of fact, kind of became the on-ramp for the Big Ten Network to even be partnered with cable partners in networks. There's a lot of moments in the last 20 years that have had everlasting effects. What are some of the ones that come to your mind?
The ones that we mentioned, there's a game in 2007 between two Division III teams, Trinity College and Millsaps. I don't know if you heard of this game, but it came down. Trinity College was trailing by 2 points, 24-22, with 2 seconds left. They had the ball on their own 39-yard line. They threw about a 10-yard pass over the middle. And then over the course of, this play took over a minute to actually play itself out. They lateraled the ball 15 times. 15 times. And in fact, the Millsaps players, you could see they were like tired. They were standing. They couldn't. And they finally got the ball across the end. So they went 61 yards with 15 laterals over the course of like 61 seconds. And Trinity College won the game. It's I would look that one up on YouTube if you get a chance. It's pretty incredible finish to a game. So as a small game, that one comes to mind. I think and by the way, in comparison, the Stanford Cal game of 1982, the Stanford band play, that was a 5 lateral play. So the Trinity College one was three times the amount of laterals. In 2015, Miami actually had a kickoff with 8 laterals against Duke at the end of the game. And what's interesting about that, they returned it for a touchdown. There was replay, and there was a flag on the play for an illegal block in the back. So the referees went back and they looked at the play, and then they picked up the flag, which was really controversial. So that was a really interesting finish for Miami. But, on the flip side, just to kind of show you how it can go both ways, in 2023, Miami had a chance to run out the clock against Georgia Tech, could have taken a knee with 33 seconds, but then fumbled the ball at the Georgia Tech 30, and that resulted 23 seconds later, Haynes King threw a 44-yard touchdown with a second to go to win the game. So that was another one of those, I can't believe they did this to lose the game, essentially. Well, you guys remember the Little Giants play, right, against Notre Dame in 2010?
Oh, we sure do.
Yeah, I had forgotten it, but I prepared for this interview. I sucked it up and I prepared for this interview. So, yeah, I mean that's another interesting way to win a game that you would never think about, the fake field goal to beat Brian Kelly back in 2010. I mean, so those are some of them. I mean, again, if you're an IU fan, Indiana fan, you'll never forget that toe touch by Omar Cooper against Penn State last year. That was an incredible play, and that in itself, just the play itself and what was at stake for Indiana, makes it a great finish. I think the one thing I will add is that in the book, almost all of the finishes occurred prior to overtime. Not all of them, but most of them. And I think overtime has really changed the way, the emotional back and forth that you get when the clock's running down and you win a game at the end of regulation versus when you win the game in overtime. It's a little bit different. But there's certainly, I think it's, what's predictable and what's not predictable. I mean, kicking a field goal in overtime really isn't that great of a finish. But, picking up a fumble on a blocked field goal and returning it for a touchdown to win the game, that is a great finish.
Ted, as you go through and you think about these finishes, I want to go back to the 2007 game, Appalachian State at Michigan. Of course, that was a tough opener for the Wolverines. At the end of this whole thing, though, as you talk about repercussions, can you guys remember how everybody finished up that year in 2007? Did Appalachian State, I think they were still a Division I AA team at the time. Did they go on to win a national championship? Did Michigan tank everything? Did Lloyd Carr go, maybe I should give up coaching, whatever, because it was so shocking?
I think what's interesting, and by the way, you guys love to talk about Michigan losses, don't you? Okay, so.
Hey, Ted, we know you're biased. We understand where you're sitting, too.
I do, too, by the way. So I think, what I remember about that game was, first of all, just the shock of the fact that Appalachian State winning. I think that was one of the first, 1AA kind of, wins over a blue blood that we saw. And it's, there's been quite a few since. But I think it was it did kind of send Michigan into they didn't have that great of a year. I'm not sure on this one because I'm just talking off the top of my head. But I do remember the ramifications of it. I think, honestly, probably more for Appalachian State. It just kind of put them, people when they see them on their schedule now, remember that. And they've had a great program since that. And I think that kind of 1AA, or now it's called FBS, FCS? I can't keep track of the FCS, right? The FCS schools. It's not a free win on the schedule whatsoever, and I think Appalachian State kind of I think they put a spotlight on the FCS quality of play. That obviously now with NIL and transfer portal, things have changed so dramatically, and the landscape is different. But having an FCS team on your schedule is not an automatic win anymore.
Shockingly enough, pulling up what Michigan did there in 2007 after that, they ended up going 9-4 overall and won the Capital One bowl game against Florida. So even though it started off the gates a little rough, they were able to rally one together. I'm still looking for the Mountaineers. We'll update that in a moment.
Well, here's a story about the game. Remember, Ted, you talked about these great finishes. We can remember where we were. In the summer of 2007, before that Appalachian State-Michigan game, we were down in our little piece of paradise, and my son, he's looking at this game, and he said, "Dad, this is going to be a game." And I go, "No way." I mean, I know they're pretty good in 1AA, and I know they're defending national champs, but come on. You're at Michigan? I don't think so. And I said, "I am so confident, Matt. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the spread plus 7 for $10. Okay?" So game over, right? And we finished up what we were doing for that day, and I'm walking back to my car. My phone rings. It's my son. All he said was this: "Dad, I don't think they covered." And I remember that more than anything. I don't think they covered.
Well, and having looked that up now too, Ted, I can update 13-2 Appalachian State finished that season, winning a national championship as well. So all ended well for the Mountaineers that year too.
Yeah, I think after that they rose as well. So yeah, it's amazing how one game can catapult a team.
So as you look back to 20 years ago and as you continue to update your book, how long does it take to write one of these things? And when you're done, how satisfying is it?
Well, at the time, I think it took me about 2 years to put that book together. But it was so fun getting the audio calls, because a lot of these audio calls pre-digital age, right? This is pre-YouTube and where now any play that happens, you can instantaneously pull it up on your laptop. But a lot of these plays, the actual audio calls were on cassette tapes. They might have been in shoeboxes of the announcer who made the call. And so getting those in was just kind of like a Christmas gift every week. So I would be writing the book, and then I'd actually get to listen to the call of some of these calls that I had not heard before. And I think it took me probably about 2 years to put the book together. From start to when I started the process. But honestly, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the website in 1994 is when I really started compiling the games. So it was a process, but it was like it was not pulling teeth. It was probably the funnest thing I've done in a long time.
Well, Ted, I appreciate you joining us and reminiscing a little bit about the work of some 20 years ago and sort of the lingering memories we have of these games. And we all have these games where you go, man, number one, I can't believe it happened. Number two, I can't believe I saw it. And then you hear about them, and then you wish I had saw it. But anyway, or I had seen it, I guess I should say. But having said all that, Ted, appreciate your time. And it'll be fun to see as we look at the upcoming season here in 2026. What's next? What will be the next showstopper, so to speak?
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt, that's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family.
Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking?
Al-Anon and Alateen can help.
Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, a good show with Ted Mandell, who put together the book Heartstoppers and Hail Marys. It was fun to revisit some of the big moments in college football history. Now, before we get to the parting shots, Dalton and I are going to do this together, which we've never done before, I don't think.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, but I know you have to say something first, so I'll let you say it.
Well, it's a reminder, if you missed any of that conversation with Ted Mandell, check us out at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's, of course, where you can find us. Again, at Sports Life Now, we'll have everything posted there. But on to the parting shots.
Well, here's a question I posed to Dalton before we even did the show today.
Mm-hmm.
And that was why, when we think about the big moments in college football, the fabulous plays, the things that just stop your heart, why do they seem to have more reverence and say maybe a big play than, maybe more so than a big play in the National Football League? And Dalton thinks he has the answer.
At least an answer. I think there could be a multiple that are correct here, but to me, I think one of the big things here is that there's a bigger variety of stakes, right? Like in the NFL, a lot of it matters on maybe it's a rivalry of the Steelers and Browns or Steelers and Ravens, an AFC North type of rivalry. Those exist some in the NFL, certainly not as plentiful as it does in college sports, but also a lot of great moments in the stakes around in professional ventures is really just about where the teams stack up in the standings, I think, in a championship race, so on and so forth. Where in college sports, I mean, those matter, but so does geography, proximity, allegiances, loyalty. There's so much tradition that is just baked into everything, all the different series matchups in history in college football. Think about it. I mean, we have well documented the turnaround of Indiana, right? They went from the losingest team in college football history to being undefeated national champions this past year. You don't get a lot of those stories in the professional ranks, but even before Indiana had this great resurgence, and say when they were playing Purdue at the end of the season, and Purdue typically, traditionally, has not been at the very top of the Big Ten football ladder as well. Maybe a lot of people put their eyes somewhere else. Maybe they look Ohio State, Michigan for big national games, right? And maybe some of the other ones that exist around the country in that final week of the season. But for Indiana and Purdue, even if they're both sitting at 5 wins heading into that game matters for the old Oaken Bucket, and that's something that you can't recreate across all the different universities and all their loyalties, all their rivalries. You cannot recreate that at the other level.
I agree. So with that, that's a wrap for our show for this week, and as always, we appreciate everybody that joined us, and we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple, and make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.